Hello, I am B. Mahadevan. I am a professor at Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. I've been here for 21 years. I am a production engineer from College of Engineering, Guindy, and then I did a master's in industrial management from IIT Madras and a PhD in manufacturing system design also at IIT Madras. There are a few areas in which I have been working. Broadly, 2-3 of them I would like to mention. The first area is supply chain, supply procurement in an era of internet-based procurement and things like that. The second area is one to do with service design, how do you design services? And the third area is about ancient Indian wisdom and its application to contemporary issues in management. I have an interest in Sanskrit. I was in the Central Sanskrit Board. I am also a trustee in some NGOs doing some social work. Let me talk about some interesting problems in service sector or service industries. In the last 7-8 years, there is a very interesting perspective to understanding business, and this comes by way of a concept called service dominated logic. Essentially, the idea is that all firms are service firms. Even a firm which is offering a product is offering a product because using that product the customer wants to actually get a service out of it. So the service dominated logic starts with a basic premise that all firms are service firms. And with this basic premise, there are a few other interesting premises, couple of them I want to talk about. The second interesting premise, which is of relevance to the current context that I am talking about, is service firms cannot deliver, all firms cannot deliver value. Why should I say service firms? Firms cannot deliver value. They can only offer value propositions. So this is a marked departure. We have been thinking that firms create value, whereas service dominated logic says firms can offer only value propositions and it's for the customers to decide whether value is there or not. So that leads us to the third part, which says that customers need to co-create value. So the value is not something which a firm creates and the customer with folded hands take it and go. Firms offer value propositions and customers perhaps co-create value in the process, so that's called value in use. So there are several other premises, I am just talking about only these 3 premises. But the point that this raises fundamentally is then how do I offer services and products? If customers have to co-create value, then the question is, where do I let my customers to come in? This is a very fundamental question. Do I create a product or a service and just I leave it to the customer? Or do I put resources on the table and ask the customer to come and then take it and use it in whatever way he or she wants to use and thereby experience the value in use? So these are the 2 extremes. You take inputs from the customer or you assume what the customers know, which is what we have been traditionally doing, and create a product or a service. So there is very little effort that customer puts. Perhaps the customer says, I need this, I am expecting this. To the other extreme, where you let all the resources, put all the resources in front of the customer and let the customer, you work with the customer, that is called co-creation at a much higher degree, and the customer takes the value in the process of working with you. The implication here is the customer requires more effort, and more importantly, the customer requires more expertise. So this is one dimension to the problem. There is another dimension to the problem, and that is, even if we choose to do everything myself at one extreme or let everything to be done by the customer to the other extreme, there is another problem, another dimension which we need to solve. The question is, where do you let the customer in? Is it at the concept level, or at the design level, or at the production level, or at the distribution level, or at the consumption level? So you have now 2 interesting dimensions. What kind of expertise and effort a firm must bring and a customer must bring is one dimension, and where would the customer and the firm bring this? At what stage of this value creation process? Is it at the concept stage or is it at the final delivery stage? If you put these two together, you get a nice typology. In terms of choices that are available, there are any number of examples. You can have a financial services firm which lets you do everything yourself at one extreme. At another extreme, you give all your funds and then they do the portfolio management, and you have a range of choices between. So we have seen quite a few manufacturing and service examples which spill across these two dimensions. The question is, it actually opens up a lot of interesting questions. How do you design this? What is the motivation for the firm to take a certain choice, and what is the motivation for the customer? How does it affect the resource deployment that a firm needs to do? And therefore, how does it influence the pricing mechanism? How does it influence customer stickiness? So there are a whole range of questions, and one of my research scholars is actually working for his PhD in this particular idea. We are trying to explore alternative strategies. We call it as forms of co-production. Different forms of co-production, what is the strategy? And what is the implementation strategy? Even if the firm and the customer, the firm, ex ante has to assume a position in this two-dimensional matrix, in which case, what is the implementation strategy? What is the implication in terms of the skills and resources that the firms need to deploy? And what is the implication in terms of operations? So these are some of the problems which are very interesting. We are seeing quite a few examples in services and manufacturing firms which we are able to map into this typology. So the current research is trying to make little more sense of why are these firms existing and how do we address issues pertaining to the firms and pertaining to the customers with respect to each of these position in the two-dimensional matrix, and most importantly, how does it affect the competitive positioning of a firm in the medium to long term. So these are some of the issues I think are very important. We are seeing a few examples here and there. Hopefully the research that is being conducted, it's at various stages now, perhaps will answer some of these. Perhaps it will give some more clarity in terms of how do firms position themselves vis-a-vis their competition.